Money is a necessity. No matter who you are, no matter where you live or what you do, you need money. We use money to buy food, clothes, to pay for services, travel, and so on. I think it's pretty clear that money is everywhere. But what if I told you that your money didn't really exist? What if you came to know that the money that you have in your bank account isn't real? That if everybody at once came to the bank to withdraw their money, the bank wouldn't have the funds to do it? And what if I told you that this lack of money is one of the main reasons why economic crashes keep on happening? These are solid statements, or even accusations if you will, and we'll get to all of them. But first, let's put all this in historical context and get some background. And let's start with money. What is it? Where does it come from? Why was it created? And most importantly, how did it end up becoming such a big part of our society? For simplicity, from now on, when I refer to money, I'm referring to liquid money. That includes all banknotes, all coins, your checking accounts, and your credit cards. Liquid money is just another term for money that can be easily transferable to somebody else. An example of non-liquid money would be a house. It's yours, it has monetary value, but it cannot be sold easily. Evidence tells us that humans have traded for the vast majority of the time that they were alive. We were trading long before we had discovered agriculture and long before we had started to build settlements. Trade has always been there to help people get what they didn't have. For example, let's say that you have some fruits that you've just picked up. Great, just trade it to somebody else for some fur to keep you warm this winter. They'll get food and you'll get warmth for a season. With the coming of civilization, we began to specialize. That's actually one of the perks of being civilized. You're not constantly worrying about your survival. You instead have a city to protect you, and you can now focus on other, more creative things. People could choose to be potters, weavers, artisans, blacksmiths, and many more professions, all trading in the local market. But there was always a problem with that system. It's a problem that we call the coincidence of wants. Let's say that you're a fisherman and you just got done fishing for the day. You head to the market and try to trade your fish. You find somebody who's willing to take your fish in exchange for fur. However, you've already traded a piece of fur last month. You don't really need a second one. The problem arises because you have to find somebody who's willing to buy your fish, but at the same time has to have something that you want. In other terms, a coincidence of wants. And that's not really practical to have to wait for somebody to fit that profile. It's not really scalable. Transportation was very difficult in those days, and there was a lack of refrigeration and food preservation. If you didn't sell your fish that day, your fish was going to go bad. Society was faced with a problem. It needed to do something that could allow for easier transactions. And that's where money comes in. Instead of trading fish for fur, you could trade fish for money and money for fur. Money became a medium of exchange, allowing you to trade with anyone for anything. It became universal. So when exactly did this happen? Well, historians trace money's roots back to the year 3000 BC. People began using animal skins, salt, and even weapons as money. Although it's debatable how good of a system that was, because the value of these items could still be negotiated during the trade. It's like if you have a $20 bill that could be negotiated down to be worth $10. It's not really practical. Later on, China adopted a new system of molding miniature weapons into bronze and using those as currency. However, nobody really likes to have things poking them in their pockets, so these miniature weapons turned into something rounder that looked like a coin. But these were not the first coins in history. For that, we have to go just a little to the west in present-day Turkey. In the year 600 BC, Lydia, an ancient kingdom, was the first to have an official currency that consisted of minted coins. They were made from electrum, a mixture of silver and gold that occurs naturally, and even had faces printed on the coins to differentiate the coin's value. Lydia's currency helped it increase both its internal and external trade, making it one of the richest empires in Asia Minor. But just when it looked like Lydia was making the lead in currency developments, the Chinese came back strong, having moved from coins to paper money. They realized that to make large transactions, you need to have a lot of coins, and those are heavy. If you want to trade with somebody from another territory, then you have to transport all that coin with you, which can get troublesome. Not only are you subject to being robbed, but coins are just heavy in large quantities. One solution was to have banks give out banknotes for people to carry around instead of coins. These notes could be taken to a bank at any time in exchange for their face value in silver or gold. It was sort of like an IOU from the bank. The bank issued you a note that said that you had 100 coins, and that note could be then exchanged for exactly that amount of coins. And the good thing about these notes is that they paid not the original depositor, but the bearer of the note, so anybody with a note could claim those coins. Slowly, this system became the new international standard for money. We ditched the old ways and embraced the new. Various countries started issuing their own banknotes, and central monetary institutions were created to regulate the process. For the longest time, these notes were backed by gold or silver, which meant that your banknotes could always be exchanged at any financial institution. It provided some sort of security to your notes, because after all, they were really just pieces of paper. This continued and we kept evolving. We eventually got credit cards and our money became digitalized. Less and less of us are carrying cash and we seem to be moving towards a cashless society. Which brings me to the second point in this video. I want to show you that your money doesn't actually exist. Going back to when banks started issuing IOU notes instead of coins, they realized that people don't come to collect their money all that often. So they didn't have to keep all of the money in the bank. In fact, they only needed to keep about 10% to have enough for everybody. So now you may be wondering, well, what did they do with all that extra money? What did they do with the 90% that they were not keeping? Well, they lent it out, either to other banks, investors, business entrepreneurs, or even the general public. It's how banks make the gross majority of their money. I think this is best illustrated with an example. Let's say that you have $1,000 and you want to put it in the bank. You go to the bank and you make a deposit. The bank, knowing that they only need to keep about 10% of that deposit, keeps $100 and lends out the remaining $900. The loan then goes to somebody else who uses it to pay the employees of his business. The employees get their money and deposit it in their bank accounts. Again, the bank doesn't want to keep $900, so it lends out what it doesn't need. So let's do a little math and figure out how much money is in the economy right now. Technically, you have $1,000 in your account. It was your initial deposit. That second guy, he used his loan of $900 to pay his employees, all of which deposited their cash in their bank account. So in reality, there's $1,900 in the economy as of right now. The loan doesn't count because it was merely transferred to the employees. You and the employees collectively have $1,900 in your account, but you've only deposited $1,000. That extra $900 comes directly from a process called the creation of money. As long as both you and the employees don't come withdrawing your money at the same time, the bank is perfectly okay with keeping only a small fraction of your deposits as cash. Now think about this from a larger perspective. The bank does this with everybody's money at a scale that reaches the billions of dollars. And this works because the reality is that most people don't actually need all that much cash for their daily usage. And that's what I meant when I said that your money doesn't exist, because it really doesn't. It's being multiplied by the bank virtually and only exists on a balance sheet somewhere in the bank's logs. How safe do you feel about your money? This is one of the causes of economic crashes. We're all living on the assumption that our money is real and that we can access it whenever we want. But that's not always the case. Sometimes when panic sets in, you can have too many people wanting their money. As we've just seen, the bank cannot give all those people their money at the same time. There's no way to recall all of its loans quickly enough to satisfy everybody. Loans just aren't that liquid. So the bank is then forced to tell its customers that it cannot give them their money. This of course scares people and only increases panic in the economy. When the loans are eventually pulled back, the ones who are using these loans to, for example, pay their employees suddenly can't do it anymore. The employees are then fired and stop purchasing goods. No goods purchased means businesses don't make any sales, which means they can't afford to spend, and the list continues. It happened in the Great Depression, in the 70s, in the 80s, in the dot-com bubble crash, recently in the 2008 financial crisis, and it will keep on happening in the future. The reason why banks keep doing it is because they make so much profit from lending that it's very financially worth it for them to keep the system going. As long as we have banks that loan out the vast majority of their money, we're probably going to keep seeing economic meltdowns. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, it would mean the world to me if you left a like, subscribed, and hit that notification bell. You would join Team Knowledge, and I would be very happy to have you on board. And now it's time for questions. What do you think money is going to look like in the future? Do you think we'll actually go to a cashless society? And do you agree with the way that banks are loaning out their money? Do you think it's good for the economy? Please do leave me a comment. I would love to read and answer them all. And yes, I do answer all of your comments. And bonus points for you, if you do leave a comment, you might get featured in next week's video as a fan of the week. And now I just want to mention something quickly. I know I haven't talked about everything regarding the history of money and the way that banks work. I actually do this on purpose to get you guys to research and maybe learn a thing or two. Because I believe in research and I believe in getting you guys curious about a subject enough to go and research more on your own. And if you do want to do that, as always, there's some links in the description where you can start. And with that being said, my name has been Darius. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for giving your time for this video. And I will see you all next week.